Ladies and gentlemen, the Indian administrative services are often called the steel frame of India. Politicians come and go, chief ministers and prime ministers come and go, but the steel frame of India remains constant, governing the length and breadth of this country. To join the civil services is still a dream for many, many people across India. Look at the numbers. More than 11 lakh people write the UPSC every year, and only about 700 to 800 actually make it. These, ladies and gentlemen, are some of India's best minds. And when they enter service, their salaries may not be as stellar as the private sector, but the perks and privileges more than make up for it. It is these privileges at the cost of public money that is now being questioned. It is in question because of the huge bill that two officers in Chandigarh have run up for travelling to Delhi. Delhi is barely 240 kilometers away from Chandigarh. Does a bureaucrat need to take a flight and pay double than what he would have had he taken a train? There's a lovely Vande Bharat that now runs from Chandigarh to Delhi. Does a bureaucrat need to stay in a five-star hotel when he can easily stay in government accommodation that is available in Delhi? You know there's a Punjab Bhavan, a UT Bhavan, a Haryana Bhavan. They can stay anywhere. Of course, it can be argued that Babus are entitled to a TADA and a flight ticket. But the argument is not about what you are entitled to. It is about what the morally right thing to do is. You are public servants. Don't waste public money. It's as simple as that. Let's start by telling you what happened in Chandigarh and if it should become a template across India. What happened is this. It started with a RTI report that revealed jaw-dropping travel details of two Chandigarh officers. They are posted with the Union Territory of Chandigarh. Mr. Dharampal is an advisor to the Union Territory of Chandigarh. He stacked up bills worth 16 lakh rupees. 16 lakh rupees mostly for travel to Delhi over 121 days. Then the second officer was Chandigarh's Home Secretary Nitin Yadav. He too submitted bills worth some 7 lakh rupees, again mostly for travel to Delhi. And so Chandigarh's administrator Banwarilal Purohit, after those RTI details, has now banned officers from the UT cadre from staying in five-star hotels and travelling to Delhi by air. In his order, Mr. Purohit says that officers travelling to Delhi must opt for trains instead of flights, adding that trains, like Vande Bharat, are almost as comfortable as flights. In fact, I would say they are better. Just to put things in perspective, a ticket on Vande Bharat's top class executive chair, this is from Chandigarh to Delhi, costs some 1500 rupees. The fare for a flight ticket on the same route, Chandigarh-Delhi, starts at 2,800 rupees. That is almost double. And I said starts at. It could go much higher. Any case, whatever the scenario, a train ticket is half that of a flight ticket. Mr. Purohit has also asked all bureaucrats to fulfill their moral duty and not squander public money or make wasteful expenses like staying in star hotels. Instead, Mr. Purohit, who's not just the governor of Punjab, he's also the administrator of Chandigarh, is asking officers to look at the Punjab Bhavan or the Haryana Bhavan or the UT guest house that have been specifically built for this purpose. Built so that IAS officers and IPS officers and IRS officers who are travelling to the national capital can use these facilities easily. Banwarilal Purohit says he himself has not travelled business class in 7 years despite being a governor. Listen in to what he's saying.
Why you have taken this decision? Because a lot of people, they are saying that it's a little bit the way this decision has been taken, everybody is appreciating this decision, but how you are going to implement this?
In the background, I would like to explain you. I think in the year 2016, first when I became the governor of Assam, then generally it's my habit. I always travel then economic loss. That day somebody told me that economy is almost full, so we will travel. Only business class is available. Maneka, how much is the difference from that day, from Guwahati to Delhi? I think the ticket price was for the economy was around 5,000 something. And then Maneka, what about business? Sir, it is 35,000. Maneka, forget it. In the next flight, odd hours, no problem. Early morning, next day we will go. The first flight. I can. So if that much is the difference, then through the newspaper, everywhere. Since then, I am governor, you see, since last 7 years. But never I traveled by business class during my this 7 years tenure. Only economy. And comfortable. What is there in? Why we should spend publics 5 times, 7 times instead of 3,000 from Chandigarh to Delhi? Economic class is 3,000, whereas business class is more than 25,000, like that. So it is not good. That money has to be saved. Whatever is possible, that is the public money. All the officers and everybody, those who run the administration and the top portion, those who are responsible, they should try to save the public money. That is my intention. Just to give indication, I told them, if you want to go to Delhi, I have restricted them for going to Delhi only at the moment. I have given, and also verbally I told them, in case it is not followed, then I will give in writing also, that you travel by Vande Bharat or Shatabdi. 4 trains are here, lot of availability. So you can travel by this. It takes hardly 3.5 hours. If you go to the airport 1.5 hour earlier, then travel, then you get down at Delhi, from Delhi to airport to your residence or business place. That almost take around 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It is better. You save money also, comfortable also. Executive class is available there. You travel through executive class.
Okay, now there are already regulations in place when it comes to officers on official visits. They can travel by air, but have to look for the cheapest ticket. They are needed to book tickets at least 21 days in advance and only via 3 approved agents. This is across the board. IAS officers, IPS officers, IRS officers all get a DA of about 8,500 rupees a day when they are traveling outside the city they work in. Most of them prefer to stay at 5-star hotels. But here's the thing. There are circuit houses, there are government bungalows, there are rest houses that already exist in all parts of India, not just the national capital, all parts of India for government officials to stay in. Then why stay in 5-star hotels? And when traveling to Delhi specifically, IAS officers get proper accommodation at state bhavans. There is a Haryana Bhavan, there's a Punjab Bhavan. They have all possible amenities. Essentially, there should be no reason why our Babus should spend public money to stay at 4 or 5-star hotels on work trips. Okay, the natural question is, in this case, you have an RTI that was filed by the Indian Express newspaper that has initiated the change in Chandigarh. But the natural question to ask is, who is accountable? Who do taxpayers pose their questions to? How do we as citizens seek explanations about how our tax money is being spent by governments? Now, that was a question the Chandigarh Administrator and the Punjab Governor Banwarilal Purohit had asked Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann as well. In February this year, the Punjab government sent 36 government school principals to Singapore for a training session. And so Purohit wrote to the Chief Minister asking him to explain the travel, lodging and other miscellaneous expenses that the Exchequer had accrued because of this trip. Look at the tweet that the Chief Minister puts out. Tweeting his response, Chief Minister Mann said, and I quote, "I am not accountable to a centre-appointed governor, but only to the 3 crore people of Punjab." Pretty rich of Mr. Mann to actually say that. If there is a Chief Minister who should introduce austerity measures as soon as possible, it is Bhagwant Mann. Punjab's exchequer is already under extreme strain thanks to freebies and high pensions. From a debt of 2.84 lakh crore rupees in 2021, Punjab's debt today has risen to more than 3 lakh crore rupees. At a time when Punjab's fiscal health is struggling, the government, led by Mr. Maan, may want to save every penny it can, even if it means cracking down on all avoidable expenditure. Let me go across to my guests this evening. Vipin Pabbi is a senior journalist joining us from Chandigarh. Ramneek Maan is a political analyst, and Anis Ansari is a former IAS officer. Thank you very much. Mr. Ansari, can I start by asking you, look, when you make the argument that maybe our bureaucrats should be a little careful about spending public money, I know what will get thrown at me. This is the rule book, and the rule book allows us air travel. The rule book allows us to stay wherever we want to. It allows us to spend our TADA in whichever way we want to. But you know, there is something called, there is of course the rule book, there is something that you're entitled to, and there is something called public morality as well. Is it fair for bureaucrats to stay in five-star hotels and travel in airplanes when there is a perfectly nice, you know, fast-moving Vande Bharat that is available?
I don't think that any issue of morality is involved here. It is a simple case that the officers of different services who are required to travel frequently from their posting in their capital to Government of India and other states, it is easier for them to travel by air rather than by train. Trains require lots of time for booking, and certainly they take much more time in travel than the air. So it is a question of efficiency. If everybody starts going by the train and they are prohibited from traveling by air, they will waste lots of their precious time, which they can put to other things. I think it's a very regressive decision to require that officers should stop traveling by air. It's totally inefficient. Even if you compare the prices or the cost of the journey, it's not worth it, because while air travel will cost definitely, but they are required to travel by the cheapest mode in the air travel itself. So they cannot go to higher prices than the ones prescribed or recommended by the government. This kind of thing had been tried once after the Janta regime came to power in 1977 in the name of economy. And ultimately, government of the day realized that it wasn't worth it, and they had to withdraw those orders. The issue of morality is not involved. It's a question of handling the efficiency of the system. See, if you keep on pushing the top officers to your ideal of morality, the individual governor's ideal of morality, I think it will have adverse effects all over the country also. Let me illustrate. If you are traveling from northeast, for example, to Delhi, you can't pick up a train. But the time that you will waste in travel from northeast to Delhi is certainly many times more than by air travel. And it's not very easy to get even reservation in railways as easily in the air travel. The most important aspect is that the senior officers of government, whether state government or Government of India, they have to interact and engage in dialogues and deals suited to the government with the corporations and other big business.
Okay.
Now, if you let me just close this. Let me just close this. Suppose somebody is Joint Secretary Government of India, has enormous powers to work out the agreements with the power companies in the country or outside. Now, the MD of the power company in the private sector, he would certainly be not traveling in train or something. He will not be staying in a small bhavan or something. So you have to have a semblance of equality, a parity between the officers engaged in dialogue on behalf of the Government of India and on behalf of the state government, putting them to unnecessary pressure, which is not very costly. Putting them to unnecessary pressure will ultimately lead to outflow of best talent from the civil services because they can get anytime much better paying jobs in private sector with the same kind of knowledge and with the same kind of skill.
Okay, fair points. I think you make some
Yeah.
fair points, and I'll get in Ramneek Mann to respond to those charges. Mr. Ramneek Mann, thank you for being on the show. Mr. Ansari is making a couple of valid points. He's saying, A, you can't impose your idea of morality on anyone else. It may very well be that Mr. Purohit has not traveled by business class despite being a governor for the last 7 years, and good on him he hasn't, that he has some respect for the tax-paying public in this country. But you cannot impose that idea of morality on other people. What essentially Mr. Ansari is trying to argue is that, look, it's a question of efficiency. It's simply a question of efficiency. It's easier to take a flight. It's, it gets you where it needs to get you quicker. And in most cases, there are no rooms available in bhavans. I know this is a complaint often enough that all your bhavans, which is the Haryana Bhavan and the Punjab Bhavan and the UT Bhavan, are overbooked. Now, if the government of India is giving you a TADA of 8,500 rupees, you can choose to stay where you want to stay. Why dictate those terms on IAS officers? Why impose your sense of morality on the civil services is the point that Mr. Ansari is making.
Okay, so there were similar arguments when we used to discuss about the red beacons atop these babus and politicians' cars. So it happened that I think on the 19th of April 2017 there was a cabinet decision which was finally brought on paper on 13th of May 2017. There was an amendment in the Motor Vehicle Act. So there can be an amendment in the entitlement per se. I do not dispute as far as the rules are concerned. They are entitled to it. And again, they are also responsible for upkeep of these bhavans because some IAS officer somewhere is in charge of these bhavans. And as far as the number of rooms or bookings, they can always withhold a certain number of quota for their own officers, which they always do. There is a certain number of rooms which are not available to the general public because they are reserved, they are held back for the senior IAS officers and bureaucrats. And so far as the talk of parity is concerned, that if they are to sign an agreement, so the parity should also apply on the defense service officers. So defense officers, when in a position, will be living in a tent or living in a government accommodation per se of the defense forces they belong. But when it comes to the IAS, they have a sense of entitlement. I mean, yes, the entitlement that they have is their own per se. But they also have a sense of entitlement. Ji, hamare ko itna paisa milta hai, we are entitled to. And parity, there's a status that comes along. So I feel that it is about time that you pull up your socks and discuss what kind of money you are spending on your travel bills and expenses. TADA, all right, you are entitled to a certain amount of money. Can you not upgrade the infrastructure with the kind of money you spent for your own self? You can bring these bhavans and these UT guest houses to level and at par with good 5-star hotels. That is all on you. Why waste public money? And there is a very important subject, public purse and its management. So this is public purse and it needs to be dealt in that way. But again, final point which Ansari Saab was saying, I wish to comment on that as well, that they say that they can get better jobs, they can get better paid in a private sector organization than being in a government organization, then sir, these people are welcome to join the private sector. And there are a lot of people who are occupying private sector posts. But like, in the introduction of this program, Shreya said, there are several lakh people who apply for this job and there are a few thousand or 100 who get selected. So that selection criteria is on the basis of their knowledge, on the basis of their accomplishment, but that should not bring a sense of entitlement. They cannot be considered holier than thou, or they cannot be considered class of citizens for short travels, sir, like Chandigarh and Delhi, which is being discussed right now by Shreya. They can travel by road or by train, but when you talk about a long distance travel, I 100% agree with you. They should travel in an economy. If they're traveling from Chandigarh to Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, or Guwahati or Kolkata circuit, it makes no sense traveling in a train. So, I mean, we are discussing Chandigarh, Delhi today.
That I agree with you. But Mr. Purohit is saying, No, no, we are not. We are not just discussing. We are not just discussing Chandigarh and Delhi today. I'll tell you why, Mr. Maan. Because Banwarilal Purohit is saying that I'm writing to the Prime Minister to make this the norm across the country. Now, I don't think personally it is practical that you ask IAS officers or IPS officers or essentially civil
No,
servants to
it's not
travel
practical.
by train all the time, because sometimes it's simply not efficient. Yeah, it's simply
I
not
agree.
efficient. But I think there is a point to be made when you say that there is a short distance travel involved. Just take the cheapest mode of transport, and save some
Yeah.
money for the public exchequer. If you can, don't stay in a five-star hotel, stay in one of the bhavans, save some money. Vipin Pabi, I'm just going to get you in, not just as a senior journalist who has seen bureaucrats very closely and how governments work very closely, but also as a citizen of this country. There are many bureaucrats who will be watching this program and be saying, why are you not putting these questions to the netas of your country? Why
Yes,
target
Shreya.
us?
In
It
fact,
may all
a
be
couple
very
of
well
points
for
I would
Mr.
like to make.
Banwarilal Purohit to say what he's saying, but he's an
Yeah,
exception.
yeah, correct. You're absolutely right. And what Dr. Ansari was saying, a former IAS officer, also has a valid point that somebody has to travel from the northeast or from the south. He or she can't afford to travel 3 or 4 days in a train and all that. That's perfectly fine. But the main point of discussion here, and I want to make 2 points about Chandigarh. Chandigarh flight time is just about 1 hour. So you go 2 hours in advance, and you from the destination you again spend 2 hours to reach your destination. It doesn't make any sense to travel by air. And another point that Mr. Banwarilal was making was they were not even traveling in the ordinary, standard economy air passage. They were traveling in business class, even for this 45 minutes, 1 hour. And therefore, the cost was about 25,000. So even for 1 hour, if they would like to travel by business class, and that makes no justification. Second, number 2 point is, as far as Chandigarh is concerned, you have rightly pointed out it is Punjab Bhavan, Haryana Bhavan, UT Bhavan. But one more point that I would like to add is that this gentleman, the top officer here, the advisor to the administrator, they have a room booked. Nobody can take that room. So there is a room booked for the advisor in the UT guest house in Delhi. Plus, they can also stay in Punjab, Haryana, or any other one of those guest houses. But they've not been doing it. And secondly, your point is very valid. Why impose it only on the officers? Mr. Banwarilal is an exception, but there are so many others. Like you mentioned slightly about Bhagwant Maan. Now he is being considered to be the kind of a pilot for Aam Aadmi Party or Arvind Kejriwal. So he had been taking Arvind Kejriwal always because he's entitled to a state aircraft and he uses it quite extensively. So why should he be using these aircrafts for personal or for political party meetings? So and all often going to Delhi by that. So these people also need to be very careful. It's after public money. We are taxpayers, and we can't be taken that lightly that you can spend whatever you feel like. So yes, there is a need
True.
to
So,
to turn your attention to bureaucrats who are just spending lavishly, which is uncalled for. But also the politicians need to be more careful, and they must also set a personal example by doing so.
yeah. And what is the personal example that politicians have set for us? 45 crore rupees ka sheesh mahal, 1 crore rupee ke parde, one chief minister in a BJP ruled state goes and, buys a private jet for his own travel, private jet with, of course, public money, that is. So all I'll say is that we expect better of our bureaucrats. You simply cannot get away flying business class on the public money from a route which is barely 240 kilometers. Chandigarh to Delhi, Delhi to Chandigarh doesn't justify air travel. And if you can, what's the harm in staying in one of the bhavans? Why stay in five-star hotels despite what you're entitled to? Now, this is a polarizing debate and everyone will have their view, but I'm going to leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Pabi, for joining us on the broadcast. Ramni, good to have you on the show. And Mr. Ansari, it was good to get your point of view as well. It's a debate that we will continue right here on Urban Debate all of next week. Let's see what are the sort of reactions we get. For the moment, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. There's a lot that has happened in Parliament, and that's what's coming up. Do stay with us.